welcome back to the Whispering Path Soul Wellness Show. I'm Yogini Tammy, and I'm happy to say that I have Rodney Derajine back on the show today. Welcome, Rodney.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, amazing to have you. Rodney and I are going to have a conversation today about yoga.
Let's go. I'm ready.
We both live yogic lifestyles, and I thought it would be really amazing for us to share our journeys, personally, and also our collaboration and our partnership together. So today will be a day that will kind of bring you into the benefits of yoga. And what I want to say about that is yoga is very interesting because it meets people where they are. So what it's done for me and continues to do for me, and what it's done for Rodney could be very different for what it does for you. So as we're talking about our journeys and I'm explaining more about yoga, I want you to remember that you have your own journey, and your journey is unique to your own soul and your soul wellness. So it really has to be experienced. You really have to step on your mat and experience it and open up to what gifts yoga has for you. So I hope that this episode will inspire you to open your soul to a new way of healing, a new way of taking the best care of your soul wellness. So I want to start by just saying what yoga is. So what is yoga? Yoga is a union, okay? It means union, and it's the practice is an art, it's a science, and it's dedicated to creating the union between your body, your mind, and your soul. And a lot of people think that yoga is just the stretching, it's just the balance, it's just more of poses that you put your body in. But actually, yoga is so much more, as we know, right, Rodney?
Absolutely.
Yoga really helps to bring that union, bring that balance between our bodies, our minds, our souls. So if you remember about soul wellness is about bringing that harmony, that balance into body, mind, and soul. So yoga is a great modality, a great practice to bring into a soul wellness plan. Our bodies are always working towards homeostasis. The organs, the miraculous cells, everything about the body wants to feel well. The body wants to have balance. And yoga really helps to allow the body to have the right environment and the right tools to be able to do its own healing, because our bodies are supposed to have that innate healing ability. But when we're all chaotic and we're not eating properly and we're not sleeping right, we're just not giving our body the right environment. How can you heal in your sympathetic nervous system, that fight and flight? Healing truly only happens in your parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're rested, you start to have recovery, you start to have repair. So yoga also is a discovery of your own self. I had no idea when I walked into yoga that it was going to be my way of discovering who I truly am, my purpose in life. Yoga really allows you to own who you are, honestly, and it helps you to explore your physical body, your mental body, your soulful body, your energetic body, your whole entire being. And it allows you to have no judgment. It allows you to be truly present in this very moment. Because honestly, this very moment is all we know we have in this day, right? So really breathe and take in what all your moments that create each day has for you. I found yoga when I became very ill and started to have a dance with chronic illness 13 years ago. And I really began to understand the power of yoga when I would step on my mat and I'd have excruciating pain where I just wanted to die on the ground. And all of a sudden that pain started to become manageable. And I was like, and I would notice that and get on the mat again and I'd be like, oh wow, I can actually function. And I also realized, like I said a few moments ago, that yoga really was the key to discovering who I was. Before I stepped on a yoga mat, I really didn't know who I was. I honestly didn't love myself. And I look back now and I did not know all the amazing parts of me. And yoga has really helped me to discover myself. But honestly, yoga has saved my life. It continues to save my life. I've actually had physicians tell me recently that without all the practices that I do, including yoga, I would be 100% immunosuppressed in bed, not doing anything. And that's not the life I want. So when I talk about yoga and I talk about all these practices on the Soul Wellness Show, it's very, very personal to me. I have so much respect, so much honor for these sacred practices because literally they give me life. They breathe life into my being every single day. And I'm very, very committed to my yoga practice and the practice that we have together. So as I share a little bit about myself, I really want all the viewers to know more about you, Rodney. So I posed a question to you, 2 questions, actually. How did you find the practice of yoga? And why did you bring yoga into your life?
I found the practice of yoga through an experience I had a couple years ago from an injury that I suffered from lifting weights at the gym. I ended up being in a space where I got in over my head with lifting weights that was relatively more on the heavy end. And in my head, I was like, hey, I can do this. And given the fact that prior to getting to that point, I exhausted myself through previous exercises and not giving my body the time to rest and recover, I ended up pulling some part of my lower back area that had caused sciatic pain. Through that moment, I had experienced that same experience 2 more times after the fact because I had brushed that pain under the rug and I was like, hey, I can still keep going, this is fine, I'm young, I can keep going. And I pulled it 2 more times, 1 time squatting, 2 times deadlifting, and I was like, I think I should chill and relax because I can't move the same now because I neglected what my body was telling me. And it's kind of tough to say that because I think hey, this is my body, I choose what I want to do. Though it's more than what it's what you choose, because your choices can have consequences. And I didn't realize that. I was young, I could do anything and everything, It's as time goes by, your body changes and it tells you things. And, that experience was telling me that I should listen more to my body, what it's telling me. So I decided.
I hear that.
Yes.
We all struggle with that.
Yes, we all do. And, it takes a moment to take a step back and look at things from a different perspective and seeing new ways to address the issues that we face physically with our bodies and how we can find ways in which we can go about healing ourselves. Mm-hmm. For me, when I found yoga, it was first through a class that was specifically geared towards the spine, because it mentioned about if you're experiencing sciatic pain, and it was a very interesting class that was mostly in a pronated position, stretching out the back, elongating the spine, there was gongs being used throughout the practice, and it was a very soothing experience. Yeah, it was an amazing class that I took. And from there, I started also taking time and sitting in the pool. I started fasting because I heard about the benefits of fasting can do with wound healing. I started eating more healthy. I started cutting down on eating meats and try to like eat more plant-based. And I found it to be very helpful in my recovery process. And as I came to a full recovery, I noticed I was even better at performing whenever I went to the gym and lifted. I ended up, exceeding my expectations, and it was a very enlightening experience. And with yoga, it came back around a couple of years after that, and I decided to take upon a yoga teacher training over at Free Love Clothes, which was formerly known as Shiva Shakti. And I found it to be a very great experience in just finding myself, getting a better sense of direction in my life and where I'm heading. It probably one of the best decisions I've made in my life.
Wow, that's amazing, Rodney. I love hearing about people's journeys, and one of the things that really interests me from what you just said is how, from listening to you, it really seems like yoga opened the door to finding a lot of other modalities also to bring into your healing journey. And it brought you obviously on your mat, but it brought you even further into the yoga practice to build your own and to discover your own self. And that's soul work. And if anybody knows me, I'm all about soul work that we do personally, and I'm all about my own sacred work that I do to hold space for other people. And I loved how you said when you hurt yourself 3 times that you had to chill. And in yoga, a lot of people have the mindset, if you're not moving fast, if you're not sweating, then you're not doing yoga, or you're not getting any benefits from it. And I have learned in my own practice, in hearing your journey, it seems that you have learned that movement, the stillness is just as important as the movement. And I think that's beautiful to have a practice that you can really listen to your body, and on days when it wants a fast flow, you give it a fast flow. And on days that it needs to be calm and still, you give it more restorative. And then some days it's a mix, right? When people think about yoga, they just think about the asana, the poses, just putting yourself into these, they would say like pretzel shape, poses and all these things they see in magazines. And the physical aspect of yoga is very important. That's a big part of 8 limbs of yoga, right? When people come to my yoga classes, we just don't do asana. We do asana, we do poses, but we meditate, we breathe, we do a lot of other, we chant, we do a lot of, I like to encompass all 8 limbs, and we could be talking about yoga forever, so we're not even gonna go into that, but I just wanted to touch upon it so people know that there's a lot to discover in yoga, and like I know this much in a world of this much, right? And we're all lifelong learners. So for me, I get on my mat every day and I endeavor to meet my body where it is. And there are days when my body is ready to roll. It's ready to move. It's ready to get upside down. And there are days when the body says no. And there's days when there's a mix. And lately on social media, I have been coming out with a few of my time-lapse practices. And they're more for me so I can see, because I work intuitively on my mat. Whatever I need, I feel through my body. But to actually see what I've done is really cool. And I wanted to show people and say like, hey, practice can be like this some days. It can be like that some days. And just really getting on my mat and meeting my needs for where I am in that day. So I know that the physical aspect of yoga is part of my yoga practice, and it does breathe life into my whole entire being, every cell. And so I would like to ask you, in relation to the physical aspect of your yoga practice, what does your yoga practice look like on your mat?
My yoga practice is a combination of, just as you mentioned, with the flow and stillness. I find myself some days I get up, I'm feeling very sore. And I just need to take a moment before I get up and go about my day, or before I even like do any form of like physical activity, exertion on my body. I need to do a couple of poses to get me going, to get me knowing that, hey, I am going into this next exercise feeling loose. Also for safety reasons, because if I do not do the proper fundamentals of stretching before I get into like a physical activity that can be strenuous, I could risk the chance of injuring myself. And that's the last thing I want, on my mind. It's like, all right, let me take a step back. I gotta chill. Let me reassess. So it can be changing based off the day and how I'm feeling. There's days that I want to go upside down. There's days that I want to like just hang out on upside down and just chill. This are toughest poses that I find to do are the ones that are still. Finding the uncomfortability in the stillness, and finding comfortability in that stillness. Holding poses that it's like really gets you in a position where you're just at that point where I can still keep going, and just talking yourself through it, because I think self-talk is a very great modality that people should utilize to help us better themselves in all aspects. And just talking to yourself through that process can really help you with whatever you're going through.
Going to your edge, but not going over it. And I think that's why a lot of people like the flowing yoga, because you can be on your mat or you can be on your mat. Mm-hmm. And sometimes with the flow, it can be very rote after a while. We know how to do chaturangas. We know how to do sun salutations where, woo, right?
Yeah.
But when we start going down into restorative pose, or we start holding poses within the vinyasa asana flow, it's like, oh. And then the mind starts, and that's when we have to like take that ego and just be like, drop it down into the soul and do a little soul chill, right? All the times I'm uncomfortable, that's when I grow the most. Right? You agree with that?
I agree.
So to actually have the skill to be comfortable and sit with that uncomfortability in a practice is amazing. I get all excited about this. So as we're talking, and the physical activity of yoga is important for the body. Right? But yoga also focuses on breathing. It focuses on relaxation, mindfulness, self-reflection, and the cultivation of body awareness. The practice of yoga helps us to learn to breathe, to center, to ground. How many times are you in a moment, but you realize you're not in a moment? You're with somebody and you're trying to have a conversation with them, but you're in your thoughts. Right? You're in your thoughts. You might be thinking about the 1,000 things on the to-do list that are always ever changing and flowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yoga really allows us to be like, all right, am I really here? Am I really here with you right now?
Yes.
And that's something that I appreciate about yoga, because before I started teaching yoga, I always had that running to-do list. And then the first time I stepped on my yoga mat to actually teach something, I was like, wow, this is hard. And then I realized that I had 5 things running up in here, and the cues just don't come out here when it's all. And so really learning how to teach yoga really was my key experience to learning how to be and live in the moment. Breathing is so important in a yoga practice because it delivers oxygen to the cells, and the yoga movements improve your circulation. And the detoxification of the body. Detoxing the body is so important, and there's so many different practices to do that. But when you're breathing and you're moving the body, Detoxification, it's working with your lymph system. Your kidneys are working, your lungs are working, your digestive system's working. And it's stimulating that muscular stretching of the body and the rhythmic pressure of the breath with the diaphragm. So let's not underestimate breath practice within a yoga practice. So when I started learning yoga, when I started getting on my mat, I learned that I don't breathe. I wasn't breathing. I don't know. I think I was holding my breath most of the time. And then the teachers would be cueing, inhale this, exhale that. And I'd just be like, I just wouldn't even know. And that was a huge thing of I'm not breathing. So I wasn't even using a quarter of my lung capacity. So in pranayama and breathwork and yoga, we learned that, wow, we have a lot of breath capacity in those lungs. And it teaches us how to be more mindful of your own breath. I mean, our breath is miraculous. It does it on its own, right? Yeah. But when our bodies are in certain states, if we're really stressed, we kind of hold our breath, right? And yoga really gets us to explore that whole breath capacity, that whole being in the moment. And I'm curious how you utilize pranayama, breathing in your yoga practice.
I mean, there's a lot of various things I like with utilizing breathing exercises. For one, I would say that yoga had definitely teach me how to breathe more and be mindful and aware that how I'm breathing, because I noticed that when I sometimes just if I'm doing yoga or in a class, teachers oh, make sure you breathe, and I'm oh, I didn't even know I was holding my breath at this moment in time. And it is as I get more aware and I enter those states of awareness, and I get back into those motions, those movements, those flows, it comes more as an effortless flow of breathing while simultaneously getting into the yogic flow.
Yogic flow.
Yes.
Use my word, flow. I love that word. It's my word of the year.
Yogic flow. And I like to utilize breath holds in restorative positions that are edging uncomfortability, and focusing on my breath at the time.
Your soul edge.
That soul edge, and it really helps me get more in tune with my body, the spaces where I need to put more attention. When I'm doing a stretch at the gym or just anywhere, I will tend to get into various different stretch positions and just breathe into spaces where, say, if my leg is feeling sore, or I need to roll my ankles around, just really taking in deeper breaths, holding it, feeling that space, and then releasing any tension that is related to that area, because our bodies our cells can store a lot of stuff, emotions, memories, and trauma. And yoga plays a huge vital role in my life to helping relieve those areas that I have faced and still facing to this day.
Constant soul work on our mats, right?
Soul wellness.
I really have a deep respect for Yogi Rodney, because he does the soul work. I will tell all of you that. And I do soul work, and it's really hard to find a lot of people that continually do their soul work and use their practices to continually do that. So I have a deep, deep respect for you on that.
Thank you.
And I loved something Yogi Rodney brought up today. Are you in tune with your own body? Are you in tune with your own body? I'm asking all of you, are you in tune with your own body? He brings up a great point, because if we don't have awareness to how we're feeling, what our needs are, what our desires are, how are we in tune what we're going to do every day, what we're going to choose that's going to be best for us, right? Also in a yoga practice, we bring in meditation. And meditation is a really important part of the 8 limbs of yoga. I meditate every day. My goal is to meditate twice a day. Sometimes I meet that goal, sometimes I don't. That brings up the point of making goals that are accessible for whatever you're going through in your life. Don't make your yoga practice a chore. As soon as it becomes a chore, you need to switch it up. It's supposed to be something that your body looks forward to doing. That aha moment of the day. That day when you soul chill. Then you go to your soul edge. And then all of a sudden, your soul flowing. And you get off your mat and it's just like magic. Like your feet don't even feel like they're on the earth, right? And for me, the meditation really helps me to get quiet. It helps me to calm the vrittis, those fluctuations of the mind, the ego that wants to get a hold of me, that I'm constantly saying, I'm all set here. I'm safe, I'm in my soul, and I'm soul flowing through this day. Right? And it helps bring more clarity to my journey and just more focus. And I would like to know if meditation is a part of your practice.
It is. I say I try to meditate at least once a week. And sometimes also it may happen on out of a circumstance where I may be feeling certain feels based on how I would react to situations that put me in states of uncomfortableness. And I would say that the meditation really helps because, for me, I can be an overthinker.
I feel that. I know that. I know that. I have the same issue.
All these things in my mind going on. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And it's like just getting back to this present moment and being present here and now is the best thing anyone can do for themselves with whatever they have going on. Because, it's not about whether you want to be there because of all the things that society places in terms of certain standards that they expect you to meet. People just gotta take a moment and chill and know that, hey, I'm here, I'm breathing. I woke up today. I can choose what I would like to do during this day and let that choice be a choice that uplifts your soul.
I love how you use meditation as a tool, especially in times of distress, to work through those thoughts, work through those emotions, and then come right back into the present moment. That's powerful. That's soul power. It always comes back to the soul for me.
Yes.
That essence of your own being. And when you were talking about how society puts us in a box, what I want to say to that is break out of the box.
Yes.
You ain't putting me back in a box. I just know that for sure. So I'm going to tell everybody else to break out of the box. And I love how, you're talking, I always say, be your authentic self. Speak your truth. Be your truth. People are going to gravitate towards you. Circumstances are going to gravitate towards you. Things in your life are going to gravitate towards you when you're sending the authentic energy out by just being yourself. So powerful. And to think we're having this conversation and it all started because we're talking about yoga. Wow. Like mind-blowing to think that yoga does all of this. Right? So we're breaking the myths, busting the myths today about how yoga is only a physical exercise, right?
Yeah.
We've kind of touched a little bit upon this, but yoga meets you where you are, right? Your yoga practice isn't going to be the same today that it was yesterday. It's not going to be the same as it's going to be tomorrow, right? We're unique individuals. We all have unique souls that have different wants, have different needs that are constantly evolving. If you're doing soul work, you're constantly evolving, you're constantly changing, you're transforming into the best version of yourself every single day, right? And as we're doing our soul work, as we're taking the best care of ourselves, as we're stepping on our mat, we keep rising and rising and rising and rising to our highest vibratory frequency, to our highest potential. You know, we've talked about polarity therapy. And in polarity therapy, it lets us know about our aura outside of us. And on that outside, all those silver beads that line the outside of our aura, that has all of our blueprints for this amazing journey. Because we have everything we need already inside of us. It's just to get quiet, to do the soul work, and start to excavate all of the beauty that we have. It's like the diamond in the rough. Right? All that beauty. And yoga is a tool that helps us truly discover our sacred lotus, right? No mud, no lotus, right? And it's interesting how I've talked about things like this on other shows. And it's like, you can just envision life is hard. Life is challenging. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not telling you that getting up every day and doing your practice is easy. It's not. It takes commitment. It takes a drive. It takes you to want to be the best you. And when you talked about getting up and getting right on your mat, that's the magic. That's the magic of starting your day in the highest vibratory frequency of love, because you're giving yourself that love through your practice, and you're giving it by showing up, and your practice is giving it right back to you. And it's that back and forth pour on your mat. And I know for me, my practice has changed. And, you know, I dance with chronic illness. So what I'm doing last week, it could be very different than what I'm doing this week. This week I can be woo, woo, woo. Next week I can be really slow. Then the next week it can be a mix. I just never know what it's going to be. And that's kind of like, you just have to own it all. You have to own all the feels. The emotional feels, the physical feels, the soulful feels, the energetic feels. You know, when we do yoga, we take care of our energy first, and our energy takes care of our physical bodies. And I would like to know how your practice has evolved over the years, if it has. And if it has, how does the evolution of your practice impact your soul wellness?
When I first started yoga and the instructor was cueing the certain poses, it was like, what was that again? Wait, what'd you say? Mm-hmm. This part of what part of my body, huh? Mm-hmm. You want me to do this or this leg? It's kind of like, I always would be looking at that person next to me and seeing what they're doing and trying to like, all right, mimic that to help me with just like getting through the poses. But after a course of time, it ended up just being like, I could just go with the flow, whether I'm cued or not, and I can just get myself into positions, even no matter like if it's a different teacher that explains it differently. There's a certain feeling, vibration, energy in which like, oh, I know what this person's talking about. There's like a level of discernment that comes with the practice, and I feel like I've been able to discern things more fluidly. Energetically, I feel like I've been able to show up more in my own life for what I'm going to do, which does in turn helps me show up more for people I find important in my life, loved ones. And I think that was a really great benefactor through my practice of doing yoga. And it helped me process emotions and feelings more smoothly. It gave me an avenue to just know that everything's gonna be all right.
Wow. What you just said is so powerful. Showing up for your own life, showing up for your practice. And when you show up for your practice and show up for your life, you end up showing up for the beautiful souls in your life, right? The beautiful people. You show up for the world, in better ways, right? Your energy is shining, you're shining your soul light. And it's amazing how yoga impacts our energy, right? And just the whole concept of actually showing up. You just hit upon a big thing in my journey. I am really, really, really big on showing up in all areas. So to see that you have found that through your own practice just gives me the chills in like the most amazing way ever. I know personally I've seen you grow as a yogi. You know, I knew you before you were a yoga teacher. I watched you go through the process. I supported you through it. And now I see you as a yoga teacher. And I just have so much respect for your journey and your soul work and everything that you stand for. And I see how yoga really has touched your soul. And it continues to touch you through your soul work, through your practice. And I love how yoga has brought so many other different healing modalities into your life. And I love how your practice honestly takes the best care of you. I really want to thank you so much for joining me again on this show. It's been so amazing to have your energy here on the Soul Wellness Show and to have you be able to share. You have an amazing journey. You have amazing things that you've been through, and you have amazing things to come. I just know it. And I wanted to know before we close the show for today, if you had anything that you would like to share with our viewers.
Absolutely. If you need to take a moment and have a soul chill, you just gotta shake things off. You grant yourself that moment to do so because you deserve it, especially if, say, you are going through tough times. You always may need to take a step back because, you know, your reactions can affect the environment around you. And through that experience in which you take time for yourself, you'll find that soul power. And it's just like a flowing experience that, you know, in turns encompasses what I call a soulistic experience.
Oh, wow.
I was thinking about that. I was like, soul flow, soul power, soul chill. And, you know, take things day by day. Be present. And know that you're not going through things by yourself. You know, find somebody to talk to. Take a moment, meditate. You know, if you haven't started yogic practice, see what does that look like for you. You know, it could be going to the gym. It could be stretching. It could be going for a jog, a walk in the park. You know.
I think you're starting to really talk about how what you do on your mat, you bring off your mat and you start to live yoga. You don't do yoga. Right? And it's a process. You know, everybody is going to get there in different times, you know, you may not discover that right when you get on your mat. It's practice. Continually getting on your mat. A practice means you're doing it over and over again, right? And your body will tell you when you're not doing your practice. Believe me, your body talks to you, right? So as for today, I mean, we could talk way more about yoga, but I think we're going to leave you with that today and just really go with what Yogi Rodney is saying. Just find that soul chill, right? Go to your soul edge in your practice. Soul flow, right? Soulistic experience, right? Allow your practice to instill a soulistic experience in the way you walk through the world, right? So with that said, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be free of suffering, may you know love, and may you walk through the world with ease. Until our next soul show, namaste elevated, peace, love, namaste.